My name is Steve Rosenberg, Pete Newbig. We are pretty much just like you guys. We're investors. We own properties. We joined Lifestyles back in 2004. Little quick history. We actually have owned apartment complexes. Pete and I were partners. We met here at Lifestyles, and after that started buying some single family homes. How many people here within the last couple years have bought properties? Okay, so several. And owned them for more than maybe 5 years? Okay, so mostly new. Okay. Well.
They're free.
Yeah, they're free. Why not? Take them. Anyways, so Pete and I basically have gone through all the trenches and problems and trials and tribulations of what to do and really what not to do. And we've learned a lot of things over our time. And, you know, we just wanted to kind of express that there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of mistakes. And we've gone through them and we've made them. And I think anyone who says they haven't and haven't gone through these things are probably a liar, I would say, you know, in my opinion, just because we've seen it all, done it all. We basically got to the point, we currently own about 31 houses and a 52-unit apartment complex. And as we were growing in our own business of running our properties, we got to about 20 properties, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and we got to the point to where as we were running our own properties, you know, we were doing it ourselves and doing everything and read all the books and we were trying to do the best we could do. And we just got to a point to where we were not really being effective at running our business. We were too emotional, we were too attached. We were just making a lot of mistakes. Even though we knew we shouldn't have been making them, we were still making them.
Even though we were taught by Lifestyles on how to do it, we
Yep.
following all of their golden rules.
Yep, all the things we knew we shouldn't have done, we did. And we basically got to a point to where we said, you know, maybe what we need to do is we need to step back and hire a management company to run our properties. We have full-time jobs, well we did, but I'm an airline pilot and he's in the IT business, so he was, but he runs our business now. But you know, the fun of running properties and owning properties kind of wore off, and we had real jobs and we had real lives, and it wasn't as fun anymore. So that's when we got to the point of saying, you know, maybe we need to hire a management company to run these things. And basically what happened was after Pete started interviewing
5 or 6 companies.
Yeah, 5 or 6 companies. We were seeing a lot of red flags. You know, none of them owned any properties themselves. There was a fee for everything they were going to do. It was just...
You had a list of property with them. If you ever sold it, they got 3%. It was just, they basically had you locked and loaded.
Yeah.
And I just had said to Steve one day, I'm like, really, if we just sat down and just built our processes, we could probably do just as good a job of these guys, if not better. And so we just we created basically that day, we ended up creating a management company to manage our own properties, never to create a business. And over time, other investors, friends, saw that we started managing our places better and started asking us if we could manage their places. And then we started doing the whole management company thing wrong, and we started not charging people the right amounts, and we were just learning a whole new facet. And here we are 3 years later, and we think we have a pretty good product now. But today we wanted to talk to you about some of the pitfalls that we have happened, some of the top issues, like David Letterman's top 10 list on landlord pitfalls, and just errors that we do, and hopefully from our mistakes you guys can learn some things, and you can be like, oh yeah, I remember when Dell talked about that.
Yeah.
So did you want to just tell a little bit more about the company, or do you want to?
No, I'd say we can talk about this.
All right, David Letterman's top 10. So these are the top mistakes that we've seen in the last couple of years with people that have become our clients, and some of the stuff that we've run into. Number one is not running efficient credit criminal check because property has been vacant. We've actually run into this ourselves many times, where you have a vacant property, it's for whatever reason not getting leased out, and finally somebody comes, anybody that has money, and you're like, we'll take it. Or we say, okay, we're going to take this money, we're going to run a credit and criminal, but we really We really don't. And we just run like an eviction history, or we don't really look at the credit history, or we don't look at the criminal history, or we never call on their jobs, and we just kind of take their word for it. Basically, what you guys should be doing is rule number one, and I know Dell teaches this, is make sure you make it hard to get somebody in there, because you don't want these purple Martians, right? You want to make sure you get the right guy, the right family in there, and you do that by running your credit check, running your criminal check, running eviction history, calling the jobs, getting documentation, getting W-2s, getting as much documentation as you can.
Yeah, we actually went the other way, where we would actually convince them why they wanted to lease the property, and we would get them in. We'd give them a special half month off. We'd give them everything, and never failed. 2-3 months later, we were evicting them. The house was trashed. We're right back where we started, and it was just a vicious cycle. And then we were worse off than we were 3 months later. We do it again, and we did it again, and then we had another property vacant. We're like, now we got 2, now we got 3, now we got 4. And it was just this vicious cycle we could not break. And we finally had to, part of our procedures were we just need to put this on paper and we need to stick to it. And, Pete used to always say, if you look at their past, you'll see their future. So if you see them and they have a lot of job histories, they've been bouncing around, they've been this, they've been that, even looking in their car. We used to go and look out in their car, see how they lived. And if their car was trashed and there was a junker car and this and that, you're thinking, well, maybe they're not, is this how they treat their car? They're driving around it. How are they going to live? And it sounds...
You want to make sure that they can afford the property.
Yeah.
That's really the number one thing.
Yeah.
It's real important to make sure they can afford it, because they might be the nicest people out there, but if they're not earning 2.5 to 3 times the rent, they can't afford your property, because guess who gets paid first? Everybody else.
Yeah.
Before the landlord does.
Yep.
Electric, gas, water, car payment. Heck, even Macy's gets paid before you sometimes.
Yep.
So you really want to make sure you put the right people in that can afford the property.
Yep.
Rule number one.
And
if you take nothing else from this little seminar, take that, because that will save you a ton of money going in the future.
Yeah, and when we get new...
Do you ever make a practice of actually seeing where they live now?
We don't. We don't. We do call, but usually it's a cousin on the other line that answers the phone. What we do now is we actually hire leasing agents to actually do this for us now, which that's a little further down on our
Right.
list. But
And
that's the way we went. But yeah, I think that's a great idea to at least contact and maybe have something faxed in from their previous landlord.
And one of the things that we do is the leasing agents that we use a lot of leasing agents. We don't do it in-house. We get specialists in each part of Houston, because we figure they know the area, so we want to use them. And we're not doing this to make the money on it. We'd rather get a good tenant, because we're the ones that are dealing with that tenant. Once the leasing agent is done with it, it becomes our problem. And one of the things we do with the leasing agents is we require them to give us a 3-month guarantee on anybody they put in the property. So if that person punches out, they got to redo it for free. Of course, we manage over 200 single-family homes, so we have the ability to kind of do that because we give them a lot of business. But that's just something we require. If they put them in and they punch out, and if it happens multiple times, then there's a problem. We're going to fire that agent. We're going to look somewhere else. So, yes.
How firm do you stay to that 2.5 to 3%?
Very.
The 2.5–3%, we stay very firm to that, because, yeah, I mean, if you just look at what debt someone has, car payment, this and that, you look at all those things. Our premise of dealing with tenants and dealing with things is we're number one on the list, and our allegiance as far as being owners and being property managers is to the owner. And we make it very clear to the tenant that you have to have enough money to live, incidentals, and whatever else you do.
If you start bringing that line down and you go to 2 times,
Yep,
you will be evicting that tenant.
absolutely.
That's net, yeah, that is.
Correct.
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
And one thing we tell new owners all the time, these people have been leasing their whole life. You've been a landlord for a year or 2. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it. They're not new. They know when rent is due. They know what happens if they break a lease. They know these things. And we tell the owners, either they're going to teach you or you're going to teach them. And it's one or the other. And if you want to do business a certain way and you start bending and start kind of bringing the line down, if you will, they're going to show you. And that's we run an apartment complex, and houses and everything from D class all the way to corporate rentals. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It's all the same. So it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, you treat.
Did you have a question, sir?
Question. On your income, let's say you have a man and woman living together. They're not married. Do you kind of, how do you handle that? Do you figure, well, this might not be as good as a person might actually be married?
The question is, if you have a man and a woman that are not married, is that better than?
Work and have income.
Yeah, they both work and have
Are they
income.
roommates? Was that your basic theory question?
I don't usually go into that. I just, but
Well, that's
I put both of them on the lease.
Absolutely. I think that's the right way to go
yeah.
about it.
Make them both responsible for it, because a lot of times we get people, their brothers and sisters or their boyfriend and girlfriend, and that's kind of a bad deal because chances are it's not going to work out. It just doesn't work out.
You give less points for them.
Yeah, okay, so like if you give them less points for that. Basically what will happen is, let's say you have two applicants come in, a married applicant and one that's not married, and they're both equal everywhere else, we would take the married couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if the two people make more money than the married couple, then we would take them. So
The more money.
absolutely. Always go with the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if one of them can afford it on their own. Because you got to figure if one of them punches out, can this person afford
And
it?
unfortunately these days, people who are together or last just as long as people who are married. It's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing.
So number 2 is showing a dirty property. Pete and I used to, when we were in this desperate cycle, I was a huge proponent that, let's put the for rent sign in the yard. They're doing, the person's not even out yet. We put the sign in the yard and we're trying to show the property and we're trying to, look at the outside, see what you think, this and that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because the problem is if that person is willing to accept that property the way it is, that is not someone you want in the property. You want the one that comes in to lease the property and is the most critical of fixing things. I want this fixed, I want that fixed. And he's to get really upset. What? They're just breaking the property apart. But what we found is if we fix all those things, they're happy.
You don't hear from them
and they
anymore.
take care of the property and they like it. It's the one that walks in and says, no problem, I'll take it. And you're like, sweet, we got a deal.
And then 3 months later when you get
3
the
months
property
later,
back, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you name it, and we've had it happen to our property. So, I mean, we could go on and on about stories of stuff that we've done. But, again,
So, yeah, try to show properties that are done with the make-ready.
Yeah.
It shows a lot better. People don't see, like, the prettiness.
Yeah.
And so,
they don't see how you saw it prior. They just see people's dirt. Nobody likes seeing other people's dirt. They don't like seeing other people's boxes. Some people try to want to get it leased while there's other tenants moving out, even if they're willing to do it. It just doesn't work. You're just better off having a nice, clean showroom for them to walk in and imagine their stuff in the house.
and as Lifestyles teaches, new carpet, new paint.
Yeah.
It rents and sells houses.
And if you're running your business property correctly, if the make ready is going on, the make ready should be a week to maybe 2 weeks at the most. So you're really not losing a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. You're not losing much, but the quality and the headache that you could be dealing with down the road by putting the wrong person in, it's just that vicious cycle, and you just kind of get put up against the ropes and you're just doing the wrong thing over and over again, which we did.
So number 3 is not having a procedure for evictions and not following through and taking partial payments. Well, the question is how do you create the procedure and how do you separate yourself emotionally? Well, you hire a property management company. I'll give you my business card afterwards. Really, you have to run your house and your properties like a business.
Right.
That's it. And once you realize that it's a business, then this is what I do. Write the procedure down. When are you going to send the 3-day letter? How much will you take? I recommend that you give them back money. If they put money in your bank account and it's not the full amount with late charges, we've sent checks back, certified.
Yep.
We go to the courthouse. We go to the mat. And if they refuse to pay everything, they're gone.
Yeah.
And you have to do that. And I know it sucks. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but it does. And now you have to do a make ready, and you have to go get somebody new in there. But you know what? You're going to get somebody better because you listen to rule number 1 and number 2, right? And you're going to get a better person in there, and you're going to believe me, your life is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, there's something to be said for the emotional headache and the roller coaster that you go through. And what we found is as soon as you give them that leeway and the pendulum swings one way, it's going to swing back again. And they might be good in a little bit, but it just continues to go. And
you can't let them dictate to you how you're going to run your business. You have to dictate to them.
Right.
You have to train them. If they train you, you can never grow your business. You'll be stuck on 1 or 2 or 3 houses.
yeah, we used to, when we first got our properties and we were doing this, and it was fun in the beginning, and I would go driving around and pick up the rents, you know, and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to get the money. It's in the hand, money in the hand. And he's like, they're training you to go pick up the rent. Why would they put it in the bank or mail it to us when they know you're going to knock on the door and you're going to be asking for the money? And if they don't have the money, you've just wasted gas and time and everything like this. And
So, or better yet, they have the money there, but it's the 6th or 7th. They didn't send it because they, oh yeah,
yeah, you didn't come by. Well, you know, and it just goes on and on. And finally, he actually stopped me from doing that and said, no more. You're not going there anymore. So, okay, so I stopped going, and we started training them. And we would go through certain tenants. But to answer your question, we have strict policies. If it's not in on the 3rd, we start it. And that's it. And you know what? One thing I will say is we are always very courteous and very professional, and we understand, hey, like I said, they know when the rent's due. It's no surprise to them that on the 1st of the month they have to pay rent. We pay our mortgages. I know when it's due. The bank doesn't come to me and say, well, you're having a hard time. Can you swing it this month? They don't care. So we just tell them, listen, we understand you have a hard time. I understand. That happens. However, the process has started. As long as you can come up with all the money, court costs, and late fees before we stand in front of the judge, next month we'll start like nothing happened, and it's nothing personal, no harm. We'll move on. And we're very respectful of that because they know they have to pay the rent. They've done something, obviously, that they are not able to pay their rent. They made a bad decision, whatever it is. We understand. But their problem is not going to become our problem.
Yeah. The other thing I would do is tell them it's not your house. You're the management company,
Yeah.
or you work for investors.
Higher power.
Higher power works
Yes.
real well.
One thing I want to say too, and I'll go ahead and grab a mic because I think I was almost out the door, and I'm like, no, I got to come back and say it.
Stealing our thunder.
No, I'm not. No, I can't steal y'all's thunder. There's no way. You do your charity work elsewhere. Your business is not where you do your charity work. So you do your tithing, you do your donations to whatever your cause is off the profits. And those people are actually stealing your profits.
Absolutely.
They're stealing your ability to dictate where your money goes, and they're taking it for themselves. So you got to remove that emotional attachment from that and know that your money is going towards whether your charity is your kid's baseball camp or it is to tithe your proper percentage or to make up at your church. Whatever it is, that's what you do with the money. You don't do it in your properties because it is a business. So if you think of it that way and you're just matter of fact and you deal with them straight on and you tell them when you're leasing, if you lie to me at one point, it's over. No hard feelings, but I'll be upfront with you and I'll be honest with you and we'll work together well. And one of the things they say to me, which I hate talking pet peeves, is, to be honest, ma'am, I thought everything
this whole time?
I thought everything we were saying was honest.
Yeah.
But if you detach it like that and you're just straight up front and serious with people from the beginning,
Right.
they respect you and they know you mean business. So that anytime anything happens, it's not a discussion, it's not an emotional battle, it's not drama, I'm not here to fight with you. Did you pay? So sorry, I'm sorry you're going through that. That's rough. Call your local church. Call your local association, places that'll help. But in the meantime, I have to take care of things and I have to go ahead and remove you from this situation if it's not going to work anymore. So
And even more so, not even the financial, but the emotional stress. Let's say you have 20 properties, and next thing you know, you have 10 that I haven't paid on time, and you've got notes coming due. The emotional stress of waking up in the middle of the night going, oh man, this is not good. And we had those days of going, this is not good. We need to stop this cycle. And just the emotional side of it. Financially, could we cover it? Sure. But to know that personally we had to dip into our pocket to cover the note because the renters they're not losing sleep overnight. They're sleeping fine. They don't care. They're living free.
In your house.
In your house, and so we basically turned around and said, you know what, that's it. This is our policy. This is how we do it. We're very cordial. We're very nice to them, but the clock is ticking. And I tell you what, once we start that process and the constable knocks on their door, we don't call them. We don't bug them. We send them the notice, and that's it. Once the constable knocks on the door and says, you're being evicted, you have court, their whole attitude changes. Well, this or that, you know what? If you can come up with it, that's great. And if they send a partial payment, one thing you guys should know is if you get a partial payment of rent, that voids the eviction. If you filed on the full rent and they give you $100 or $10, it doesn't matter. If you don't give that back within 24 hours as a certified check, the eviction is voided. and you've wasted your eviction fee and the court costs and everything. They pay us the money. If it's not in full, we tell them we have 24 hours to give us the rest of the money. Court costs and late fees. If you don't have it, we're going to send you a check back, and you're going to need it. Because when you get the eviction, the way we do it, once we're done with them, we have a debt collection agency, and we fire it off to the debt collectors, and the debt collectors are going after them for what's left on their lease and all the money that's owed. So but they learn this, like he said, in the beginning, because we're very strict with them, and we let them know this is how it's going to go down. If you can't pay your rent, we're probably not the people to rent from, because we do not mess around with the rent, because it's the owner's rent. Our allegiance is to the owner.
Do a lot of that online.
Down at the court.
Question is, those eviction documents, do you have to go down to court or can you do it online? Actually, you can do a lot of it online now.
They're starting, Harris County is supposedly within the next year.
Yeah, the jptx.net or something like that. If you Google the justice on the precinct.
Notice to vacate in 3 days online.
Yeah, that you can just mail, though. You don't even need to.
Go to the Office Depot and get you a copy and then do it certified.
Yeah.
But the eviction, you got to go down.
Yeah, but they are changing that to be able to be able to do it online. I don't think you can do it just yet, but we have an eviction agent that's all they do is they go down, they file the evictions, they file the writ of possession. I mean, they see the whole thing all the way to the constable removing them from the property. So, I mean.
Yes, sir, you had a question?
Do you have somebody you recommend for debt collection?
Do you have somebody you recommend for debt collection? We actually have a software that we use for our property management, and they use a debt collection agency out of Florida, I think it is.
Yeah, it's called NCC is the company.
NCC. And so it's just tied in with them. So that's who we use. It's just because it's very simple.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Your agreement, lease agreement, do you put anything like about eviction, like in other words, lease special procedures?
In the lease agreement, do you put anything about the eviction procedures? We have a welcome packet, and we also tell our leasing agents, we have addendums, and we go over when they have to pay, how they have to pay. Like, how many times did you put it in? And
It's all over
5 or
the
6
place.
times. It's all over the place.
It's very clear. By the time they're done, they understand what they're getting into. And the way our system works, our software, they can actually pay online through an ACH bank payment. They can do auto monthly drafts, and we even accept credit cards.
Yeah, we take credit card
And
payments.
it doesn't have to be from them. It can be from their auntie. It can be from their uncle in California. We don't care. We're
Borrow
just trying
from
to get the
somebody
money.
else. Don't borrow from us.
Yeah, don't borrow from us.
You had a question, sir?
Yeah, why would you cash the partial payment check just to turn around and send them a certified check?
It's a great question. Why would you cash the partial payment check just to turn them around? Well, a lot of times with us, they know our bank account number, and they'll just dump it in the bank account. And one of the tricks they use is right before court, they dump money into the bank account. And so,
$100, something to null and void. They know what they're doing. They're not dumb.
yeah. Now, here's the thing that they don't know. If you do it the same day of the court or the day before, if it's not 24 hours, it's null and void. Doesn't
Right.
matter if you put money
Right.
in. Yes, ma'am.
You can't just send that check they sent you back to them?
You can't just send the check back. We try to do everything certified, and then we keep a copy of it, because when you go to court, I have written, if I just send them a check back, you don't have a date.
It's your proof
Now I
against
have-
them.
Now I have a proof on what day I sent it.
Right. And that's what we've been advised by judges and our attorneys. Just do it this way. It's safe. There's no question, and it's standard. And again, it goes back to just having standardization. It's the same
And that's a
every
good
time.
segue to number 4, is not having all the documentation for eviction court. And so you want to make sure you have all your documentation. And what does that mean? I'll be with
It's not our problem as long as you have a receipt from the post office that you
But
sent it to them.
The question is, what if they didn't? What if they don't accept the certified mail? And that's correct. As long as you show that you sent it, and you have the receipt, you're golden.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go to attorney's office, everything's gone out that way, and they don't really care whether you accept it or not.
It's not their problem.
Exactly.
That was from our attorney advised us. Send it. It's not your problem. You have the receipt, what they did with it. And we email it to them also. So we show 2 methods that we've tried to get it to them. And that's all we have to do. No, I'm sorry. We email them the 3-day notice and other stuff. So we email and we send it certified. The check, obviously, we can't email.
Yes, sir. You had a question?
As a property manager, at what point does the owner have to go?
As a property manager, at what point does the owner have to go to eviction court? They don't. We take care of everything, soup to nuts.
Yeah. Our goal as owners, we've got owners in Saudi Arabia, Guam. We deal with a lot of investors that come in Canada that are buying stuff, Mexico, even local, Houston. Our deal is we basically offer, it's turnkey. We really don't want the owner involved. I know it sounds bad, but we've got so many working systems going on with people. It's just better to let us do what we're doing. We keep the owner in the loop. You always know what's going on through emails. We try to keep you up to date and let you know every time we do something. If we get information, we try to spin it and disseminate it out to you and to whoever it's pertinent to. Service ticket eviction. You know what's going on, but we're not really asking your opinion. We're treating it like it's our property, and we're just taking care of the problem.
Yes, sir.
On debt collection, my experience has been is the best I've seen is like a 5% return on judgment come out. Are you getting better than that?
Not really.
No.
We don't really see much of it. To us, it's kind of a tit-for-tat thing. It's going to be on their credit. They're going to go after them. If they get something, great. If they don't, they've got the eviction, and they've got the judgment on them.
Yeah,
You know.
we're not looking. Honestly, we really don't see much money coming back.
No. But we just do it. You know, they go after them. If it makes their day a little harder, so be it. That's my opinion. It does, because the next landlord that's trying to rent from them can, if they do their due diligence and lease and run a background check, they're going to see that and they're going to go,
Everybody did it, the whole industry.
That's very true. That's very true.
Yes, sir. I'm back.
You mentioned foreign investors.
Mm-hmm.
Are they, do you help them with buying the property, or you just manage after they got them there?
The question was, with foreign investors, do you help them find the properties you just manage? Well, Lifestyles will actually find you all the properties that you want with the foreign investors. These guys have great agents, and they'll find you great deals. So we don't do that, but we do have agents that will lease the properties for them because we work with agents that are in specific areas.
Yeah.
Next one I have, number 5, being stubborn and not fixing maintenance items because it says so on the lease, and having small issues become big issues. Now, I know Lifestyles teaches I don't ever get any maintenance calls, and these people have to pay the first 50 or $100, and that's great, and if you can get it to work at 100%, I think that's fantastic. However, in the real world, what we have seen is people will not call you because they don't want to pay the $50, and you'll have a small plumbing issue that could have costed you $100 to fix, come into a $1,000, $2,000 problem. We like the residents to call. Now, whether we take care of the problem right away or if we try to get some money on the back end, we try to do that. But we believe in fixing the maintenance issues as long as they're not cosmetic. If the house has a problem, that's really not the resident's problem. And we have seen a lot of owners be very stubborn on not fixing maintenance over small stuff that becomes either
Becomes a huge issue.
becomes big, or the tenant leaves, and you had a great tenant that was paying, and they just wanted some leaky faucet fixed, and you were waiting for this $50 and over $50. You have to do a whole make ready now, and
And you still have the problem. The problem's still there. It doesn't go away. You have to fix it before the next tenant moves in. So you really haven't won anything, and now they're pissed because they say this doesn't work, landlording, this and that, da da da. And we're like, you're running it wrong. You're being emotional. You're drawing a line in the sand, and to us, that's just not the way to handle the business. Obviously, when we have a maintenance hotline, they call our maintenance hotline, or they can input a maintenance service request right online on our software. And once we get it, we've got vendors and volume pricing with all of our vendors. You're not going to get cheaper pricing than what we have unless you have 200 single-family houses all over Houston. But really, to us, it's like the little things, just fix them. I mean, it's not, instead of emotionally saying it's not right, this and that, it's still your house. It's your investment. You got $100,000 property that's sitting out there, and you don't want to pay $50, $70. That's just not how we like to operate, because we feel the wrath of the tenant digging their heels into the ground as well, and now we're in the middle of two guys going at it.
But even if you're not with a property management company or with us, I highly recommend you go find a good maintenance guy. Maybe a couple other members are using, and you guys could kind of use that one maintenance guy. We know
Leverage.
Leverage that person and use him, and you pay him $15 an hour or something like that, and he can go take care of all the small stuff.
Yeah.
Believe me, it'll go a long way if you take care of the small stuff.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You say number 3 was eviction procedure, and number 5 was maintenance. What was number 4?
Not having the documentation for eviction court. Yeah, a lot of owners will go in there. Yeah, I filed the eviction. Okay, do you have the 3-day notice? Well, I sent it to him, but do you actually have a copy of it? You have to have a copy.
Yeah, anything that you send the tenant,
Bring a copy.
print it and put it in a folder.
And
Anytime.
every court is different. And every
Yes.
judge is different.
Every judge
So
is
bring
different.
everything.
Yeah,
I hear that you email that notice.
We sure do.
we
But
do through our
we-
software does it.
Yeah.
Our software does it.
That will stand up in court, or you email it and put it on the door.
Bingo, both.
No, we
No.
email it and send it certified.
We email and send it certified.
So we can show the judge we emailed it because it's archived. The way our software is it archives in the system, and we have the receipt that shows that we sent it certified.
And a lot of lawyers will say that, email, since it's timestamped and all that, is actually pretty good,
Right.
but nothing beats sending certified mail.
And just like he said, just having your stuff, we've been in court before where we watch these guys go through and, next thing you know, you lose the battle. And now you're set back 30 days again. And they just sit there and say, and they walk out and they're living in your house and just because you didn't have your paperwork with you. And the judge just thought that you, didn't do it right. They didn't trust you. The judge was having a bad day, whatever it is. Just because, if you have your stuff in a row, we've had been very successful with evicting tenants, and it's just how you present yourself and how you go in and how you go through the process is our opinion.
Number 6 is not running your credit and criminal on your maintenance vendors, especially guys that come out of a truck.
Home Depot.
The guy I was just describing, I guess. You want to at least run some kind of criminal check on him. And if you don't have the means to do it, you might want to hook up with a leasing agent. A lot of those guys will have it, and they maybe run it for you, and you can give them a little bit of money to run the credit. But I really, truly believe you want to know who you're doing business with.
Especially if these guys are going into your house.
Yeah, especially if they're not a true company,
Yeah, and if they're not licensed or you got them doing electrical, little things, but if they're trying to, big jobs, permits, and doing stuff like that,
Again, if you're dealing with a licensed company
Yeah.
or just a regular company, no different, because they're doing the credit and criminal on their guys. But if you're going to hire somebody out of their background.
I see people writing notes. I got this list on Lifestyle's email they sent me. If they wanted to download it, it has your list of stuff.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, the notes for this class.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that. Great.
That's where I got them.
Oh,
Okay.
Just outline.
yes, question.
The vendors that are approved by Lifestyles, are they checked?
You'd have to ask.
I don't know about
Lifestyles.
that.
You have
That's
to
a
ask
good question.
Lifestyles. They checked us.
Yeah, they did check us.
Number 7, this is a big one that I used to do all the time, is meeting your maintenance vendors at Home Depot. Just set up an account and get a card, revolving credit, and have them go to the pro desk, and the pro desk will call you and you approve it. Easy.
You can ask them what's on the list. Is there any
Yeah.
soft drinks on there? Are there
Any
any
tools on there? You don't
know.
buy tools for these guys.
We used to have guys doing pilgrimages, 3 times a day to Home Depot, and we're like, "What are you doing there?" And we,
I can't tell you the amount of Gatorades
oh
I
my
bought for these guys.
gosh, yeah. So you just got to keep control of it. And again, these are back when we were making the mistakes. This guy's, it's like, where is the guy? He's at Home Depot again.
But
It's
why,
like, you were
why do
just
you,
there.
but the thing is, you don't want to be at Home Depot 3-4 times.
Right.
You can't get out of home. They're so damn big, you can't get out of it after an hour. An hour, you're still in there. Like, I just got to buy, a lock.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why is it an hour and I'm
Yeah.
still here? So just have them do it. And just set up an account. Easy. Go to HomeDepot.com, set up an account, and it's real simple. Number 8, purchase a property, but you do not have enough capital to make it nice, and you try to piecemeal the maintenance over time. Now, I put this in because Steve and I were the
did
biggest
this.
offenders of this.
Yes.
We bought like 20 properties in the ghetto, and we just put Band-Aids on them all, thinking that, this will be fine. And then people move in,
Paid out
and they
of
put
cash
ACs
flow,
in,
yeah.
and electric goes out, or they turn on water, and oh my God, look at that, there's a plumbing issue. And we spent all of our money buying these houses, and so we could only scrape by and fix here and fix there. And 3 years later, we finally got through most of the major issues.
Yeah.
What we're telling people to do now is whatever you buy, you want to hold, what do you tell them?
I tell them 20%.
20% on that property after you make ready.
Well, and it depends on the property. We have a lot of people that buy tax lien properties that hand them over to us, or they buy stuff down in like South Park. Foreclosures that have been sitting a long time. And we tell the owners, and we deal with the after effects, but we explain to them, look, this house doesn't come with a history book. It doesn't come with the past information. So when these tenants flip the switch and all of a sudden they got plumbing going on and they've got electrical and they've got it powered up, they got breakers popping, they've got this, they've got that. Well, they're calling us. They're thinking that we've been managing this house for years. And next thing you know, the owner's like, well, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about the hot water heater. It's not anyone's fault. We just have to fix it. And what happens is we get the tenant, and I've had to just tell the tenant, listen, here's the situation. The owner bought the house as a foreclosure. Nobody knows what's wrong with the house. If you have a problem, we will fix it. You call our maintenance hotline, put it in online, we'll take care of it. But nobody knows, and they think, the owner just doesn't fix his properties. oh, he's not fixing it. It's like that's not the case.
And
The owner
normally-
doesn't know,
right, normally
because
the
no
owners-
one's lived in here before because he just bought it and it's been sitting empty for 2 years, and the plumbing's going to shift and the plumbing's going to break, and you're going to have electrical problems, and the AC is going to go out, and it's just natural. But we have a lot of guys that buy these and they say, well, I don't have any money to fix this. It's like, well, it's not really our problem. That's your problem now. You should have planned your business model better. We did. We didn't plan it better, and we, yes.
So in that scenario, what you're saying is you need to have 20% reserve in anticipation of issues.
Just for the what ifs.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially if you're buying a foreclosed property that's been sitting
Especially if
there
it's a
for while.
foreclosed property and there's no one to
If you
ask.
find something
what
real
was
nice
wrong.
in Katy, you probably don't need that kind of,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
kind
if you're
of,
buying, and when I say 20%, we've got guys that are buying houses for $30,000, $40,000.
Right.
They're renting them. They're renting them for $800 a month. I tell them, if it were me, from our experience, I would put 20% aside because you might need it.
Yeah,
And-
we've had some really upset residents that we've had to really.
Yeah, we're just pacifying them, and it's not our fault. We didn't do it intentionally. And in hindsight, I think what we would have done is we would have bought the properties and spent all the upfront capital to rehab it right, instead of just kind of trying to go as we went. So instead of waiting for the problem and then be reactive, I'd be proactive and I'd do it ahead of time. We'd get all the electrical taken care of, the plumbing, and that's just something we learned instead of, because all it does is cause you headache and grief and sleepless nights and pissed off tenants and,
And it just a bad beginning.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You guys look at being buying home warranties, like single families?
That's a great question. Do you recommend buying home warranties on single families? It can get costly with the amount of properties you purchase, but if you have a couple, I think it's a good idea, especially if you have some nicer ones, like the $100,000 and more range. I think it makes some sense.
The only problem that we've seen with that is, they're going to try to show if the tenant was negligent. So if the AC went out and they can say, well, he's not changing his filter, we're not going to honor that.
And we've seen them not be very responsive. At
Yeah,
times
we
as
had
well.
one where it took a week. It was 100 degrees. It took a week to get to this tenant. And the owner said, I want to use them. We said, okay, that's fine. It's your call. It's your deal. And so we were waiting.
I think you have to find a good one, and you
Yeah.
might want to ask around and see if there's anybody that knows a good one. I don't know of a real good one offhand, but I definitely do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you had a question? Yes.
I was wondering if, so the situation you're saying where you need to reserve the 20%, that's not including like if you've already had an inspector come out, like they're gonna know that.
Well, the
Correct.
problem is with foreclosures, you don't know what's going to go on with the plumbing or the electrical
Right.
once they power it up. If it has 3 breakers and they put window units in that suck a lot of power. So there's just some things, it might be fine. They might say, oh, the pipes look good and everything. But once someone lives in there and they flip the switch and water starts flowing and it's just a different animal.
This is if you're buying a house that's been sitting for a while.
Yeah.
If you're buying a house that was owner occupied and you had an inspector, you probably don't need that kind of money.
Yeah, I agree.
As a
Especially if
reserve.
it's a newer house. If the house was built in the 50s and 60s, you're probably going to have problems with the plumbing, not always, but you should
want-
be prepared
you just
to
wanna be
get
prepared.
that phone call
And
saying
after
you got
after
a
a
problem.
month or two, then you realize you don't need that money and you can go use it to go buy the
Yeah,
next house.
what I tell owners is I say you need to go, especially if it's a foreclosure, I always tell them you need to go through a full cycle, cold and heat, to see what is going to experience with the property. And once you go through 1 year, you've pretty much probably gone through all the problems that you're going to go through, and then you're probably fine. But you don't know, again, unless you're buying it from someone and they're disclosing that to you, you really don't know what you're looking at, is our experience.
Yes, sir, you had a question?
If it's a foreclosure, you can't.
Do you recommend turning the power and water on? Yeah. Do you recommend turning the power and water on after you purchase it? I do. I recommend we as a management company always turn power on for the make ready team. We don't always turn water on just because the city of Houston is so darn difficult to deal with. But we recommend the owner turn water on. Again, you want to get the property clean, and you don't want to have these guys going slug buckets from the Shell station here. So we don't recommend turning gas on unless there's no gas meter. Then we totally recommend doing that because you don't want a tenant to move in with no gas meter.
They're going to
Because now you have to deal with getting an
Inspection.
inspection for the gas meter, and that could take, with the city and the inspector, that could take 4 or 5 days. And now these guys don't have
Hot water.
hot water, and that's that's not really.
Yeah, what we do, we have a corporate account with Reliant, so whenever we get a property from an owner that's vacant, we go ahead and we just get it turned on. It's just part of our procedure. We just turn it on for the owner and just take care of it.
We're trying to get a streamline for water, but it's just
Yeah,
different.
what we had before is when the owners would take care of it themselves, they would forget to turn it off. And 3 months later, they would say, hey, I got this electric bill, and I want you to call the tenant and get the money back for me. And we're like, well, why wouldn't you shut the power off? And now we're the bad guys fighting with the tenant to try to get the money back from the owner because the owner was too lazy to take care of it. So finally we said, we're just going to take you out of the equation. We'll take care of it. We'll turn it on. We'll turn it off. We'll pay for it. And when we get the rent from the tenant, we'll go ahead and cover it. And it's just easier that way.
Sir, you had a question?
I just want to make a comment about the gas meter thing. You know, if you don't hook that up, I had a situation with a property where the meter was away from the house and it had a breakdown in the line.
Yep, absolutely.
Guys, let me tell you something. They are turning that gas on, and it's your line from that meter. to your
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it could take a
Yeah,
while.
you got to
pull
dig or
permits.
break concrete or break in the walls. And
Yeah. Now, we have guys that can do it. It's not a problem, but it's better to be proactive and look at it first. Absolutely.
time thing.
Now you got a pissed off tenant because it's the middle of, winter and they can't get hot water, and
Or a woman says, I can't wash.
yeah, and I want to be compensated. I got to live somewhere else until you guys get this fixed. And now, we're playing referee,
all the time.
and it happens. I mean, it does happen.
Yes, sir. Any question?
What point we turn over, after we close, we turn it over to you, or after we fix all the problems?
His question is, when do you turn the property over to the management company? We can actually do make-readies, rehabs. You can turn it over to us. The management fee does not start until the property is ready to go. So if we have a big rehab or something that takes us a month, there's no management fee. We'll take it, we'll do the rehab, and then once we get it going into the system, then that's when the clock starts.
And one thing with us, we don't require you to use the people, our vendors. If you say, my uncle can do it, he's got a great job, he's got a good truck and tools, he can do it, then we say, fine, you know what? Even if you said, I can lease it myself, that's fine by us. We don't care. We manage your asset. We manage your property. We have all the tools in place to take care of it, but we don't require you to use our people.
Yes, sir.
We have,
That's a good question. His question is, how many properties do you have in a portfolio before you recommend you turn it over? I think the answer is going to be it depends, right? I mean, how much can you handle? How many systems can you put in place? Is your job where you're traveling all the time? Then really maybe one you hand over to us. If you're home and you don't have any kids and you're single, and you might be able to handle 10.
yeah. Just depends
it
what
really
you do and
depends.
what, if you like, some people like getting their hands dirty and working on stuff. They like doing it themselves. It just depends on what your threshold is. Some
As
people-
Dell teaches, though, all as an investor, you need time and money. So we're taking the time. We're giving you the time back. If you give us the asset and we manage it, you don't have to deal with it, right? So there's your time. So now you just have to come with the money. So now you can work more overtime, get more money, I guess. Go buy more assets.
But just ballpark, like, what's a good number to turn it over to you?
A good number to turn over to us. It really, again, I'm going to go back to it depends on. It really depends on you as a person and how much you can handle. If you're real busy, I think most people after about 5 or 6 houses, they're overwhelmed. So you can use that if you want as a number, but mainly it's going to be up to you. Yes, sir.
I would think that he's probably referring to the cost for the management service, and that's probably the same per house, whether you have one house or 10 houses.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the more you have, the more we can negotiate, right? It's
Yeah.
called leverage. You'll have it. I'm sorry. Yeah, normally around 15, 20 houses is a price break, and we start looking at giving you a discount. But if you only own one house and say, well, I'm going to go buy 14 more in the next 5 years, you're not going to get the break, the discount. But we negotiate depending on how many
Our
houses.
goal is not to make as much money as we can off of you. Like we said, we're investors too. We get the same price benefit from all the vendors. Our deal with all of our vendors is they have to give us the same price they give you guys. So when we're out there negotiating, when we had 100 properties that we were managing, we had a little bit of leverage. When we had 150 and then we had 200 and a little over 200 properties, we have a lot more leverage. So we get that we're benefiting as well. So we're not looking to, nickel and dime the owners over that because we're getting this pricing for paint, carpet. We're using them as well.
We're running out of time.
Oh, we are?
so-
Oh, okay.
Just going to go to number 9. Pay your maintenance vendor up front. That's probably, as Dell teaches, a big no-no. Don't pay the maintenance guy up front, especially if he's not a big company or a company, and he's just some guy that's a fly-by-nighter and you found him at a Green Sheet or Craigslist. And number 10 is a big one. If you don't keep good accounting records, this is going to be a problem. Getting your taxes done. We recommend that if you do have single-family houses and you're going to run them yourselves, to have a separate banking account for that. We got into a big issue with ours. Our CPA, we had to file extensions every year the last 3 or 4 years because we just never did our accounting correctly for our own houses. Everybody else's houses were fine, but our own houses, we never did the accounting correct. So we recommend using, QuickBooks and running your properties like a business. Don't commingle your personal account with your business account.
You got to be strict and diligent.
QuickBooks has several different packages. What is the package that you recommend?
Well, we don't use QuickBooks. We have our own software, but I like the online version. I used to use that one a lot. And again, it's just nice because if you're in the office or wherever, it's in the cloud. It's in the cloud and you can get to it anywhere. So I like the online version.
You could probably call them and they could probably tell you what best fits what you're looking for, I would bet.
But I would recommend QuickBooks instead of like Peachtree or anything like that. Yes, sir. I think it's on. Is this?
Natalie said, or someone said it's on the email list.
Email I got from Lifestyle.
Right.
If you signed up, they sent you a syllabus.
Yeah.
I'll give you mine. I'll even sign it for you. All right. Number 11. Do not view the resident as a customer, but as a pain in the. All right. At the end of the day, these people are your customers. So if you view them as customers, you might have a little different approach to it, as opposed to, oh, that guy's calling me again. Just remember, they're your customers, and if you could, and I have to work on this more than Steve. Steve's great customer related. I'm from New York, so we're not very good in customer relations. But really, if you could do, what is it? Firm but
fair.
Firm but fair. Firm but fair. You didn't pay. I'm sorry about that, but I really feel for you. But can you borrow any money from your mom? I take credit cards. Can you do this? Can you do that? But unfortunately, I got to file the eviction. Stuff like that. Yes, sir. I do not, but I know some areas really well. I know the southeast area really well. I know Katy pretty well, and we know Northwest very, very well. So I could probably help you out with how residents behave in those areas. There are some areas I just don't know as well. Yes, ma'am. Oh man, do you handle Section 8 tenants? Yes. I don't want to, but I do.
It's a double-edged sword. He doesn't like it as much because he deals with the maintenance side of things.
Do you negotiate with their deposits? Really that's going to be up to the owner and the leasing agent. If the leasing agent really, we all know the good thing about Section 8 is that they pay after about 4 months of trying to get your payment to you, right? Of red tape. But once that comes in, right, they back it and you get your 4 months back and all that good stuff. But you are putting people in that the government is running their life for them. So you just realize that your house isn't going to be the same as when they move out. And we have done specials for them for deposits.
But let me just say this, and he and I differ a little bit, but with Section 8, we have a premier membership with Section 8, okay? And so when we have a property that's being leased out, it goes out to everyone that gets any type of government assistance.
That's correct.
Veterans, disabled elderly people, whether it's a single mom. So it's not the standard Section 8 that people think about. It runs the gamut. And these properties go to all these people. So it's not just the people looking with the 15 kids running around, jumping all over the car. It's all different walks. Anyone that's getting any type of government assistance is in this.
We are working on mastering the red tape of Section 8.
We're trying our best.
When we get that down pat, I will be happy about Section 8. So the question is, do we let the owner know what the rental market is in that area, the market rent? Is that kind of? Yeah, so the leasing agents that we use, they'll do what's called a CMA. It's some leasing agent term that they basically it's just an analysis.
Comparables.
Yeah, comparative market analysis. Thank you, and really that's what they'll do, and they'll send that over to the owner.
And that's why we use specific agents in specific areas. because we have properties from Texas City to the Woodlands to Katy to everywhere. We don't want someone that's in Texas City to try to lease a property in the Woodlands that knows nothing about it. So we have specialists in the Woodlands.
And that's a good segue to number 12, which is most owners do not leverage realtors to lease up their property. You guys are so worried about, oh, they're going to get my first month's rent. But then you go 3 months without renting this thing, and you're running around taking 1,500 calls, and you're running to the property and setting these people up, and they don't show up, and you get all upset. Why do these people not show up? And you have all this,
Not to mention vandalism. We've had a lot of properties sitting empty. I had one of my own. It was empty for about 3 days.
3 days.
3 days, and they went in. They took the air conditioning unit, the furnace, the copper. They took the motor
out of the fridge.
Copper out of the fridge. They took the stove, the hot water heater. I mean, it went from about a $500 make ready to $15,000, and the insurance didn't cover it because they said it's considered theft because the property was empty. They covered the vandalism, so they covered them breaking through the drywall to get to the copper. They took my light bulbs. They took the ceiling fans. Like they were
copper
shopping.
out of the fridge.
Yeah. So they covered the breaking through the drywall, but they didn't cover the actual stuff that was stolen.
But here's the deal: the leasing agents, that's what they do. They lease properties. It'll be on the MLS, so you get a better type of client. Other realtors will bring buyers to you, and they know the market. And so I highly recommend just getting a leasing agent. If you guys are going to do this without a management company, get a leasing agent that works in your area. And believe me, just leave the headache to them.
It's not worth it.
So that's what you guys do? You work with the leasing agent, or do you?
We have about 5 different agents all over Houston.
So you have, so there's that rent-up fee, and then there's a percentage per month, that's the rate,
The leasing agent charges their leasing fee, which is normally 1 month's rent.
That's between you and them. We don't get involved in that.
Right.
That's. If
We
you
pay
said I
them.
want to lease it
Basically,
myself,
the money comes into our account. They send us an invoice, and we pay them out of rent.
so then your fee is based on,
it's based on rent, the rent roll. It's based on the rent.
outside the 10 months, your fee would be 10 months. It just happens to be not renting for the next 2 months later.
Our fee is on charge rent. If you have a property that's vacant, we still charge our management fee. And the main reason is because we do more work when the property's vacant than when you have a good tenant in there.
Yeah,
All right. And then
10%. Standard 10%. Yeah. I'm sorry.
charged, of rent charge.
Of the rent charge. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the last one, and certainly not the least, but not filing the writ of possession after getting eviction in the courthouse. Not filing the writ of possession after you go to the court. So you do all this work, you go to the courthouse, you win, and then you drive by your property to see if they're still there or not. Oh, it looks like they're gone. I'm going to go ahead and change the locks. I'm going to go ahead and pull all their crap out of there. Okay?
I don't think you can say that.
Oh, sorry. But here's the, what do they call it? What are
The Rolex rule.
Tell them about the Rolex
The
rule.
Rolex rule is when they sit there and say, I was on vacation, I didn't leave. And you say, well, the house was empty. Now you're standing in front of the judge, and now you're explaining to the judge why you broke into the house that you didn't have legal possession of. And the judge says, well, was the power on? And was the water on? You say, well, I don't know. They didn't abandon the property. They were still in the property. And tenants know this. And they say, and I had a $10,000 Rolex in that house. And he pulled everything out.
Right.
Now
So-
they're suing you.
So pay the $130 and don't pay for the guy's Rolex. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
What about using the notice of abandonment?
What about using the notice of abandonment? So put the notice of abandonment on the door.
What if you find a house that appears to be abandoned, and the notice says it appears, within reasonable
But who-
interpretation that the house or apartment or whatever is abandoned?
Here's the problem that we've run into and we've talked with our attorneys about is that's interpretation, as opposed to when you've already gone, you're at the 90-yard line once you filed the eviction. Okay, we take care of filing the writ of possession. We do all that, and what happens is the constable goes to the property, file the writ of possession. Constable will go. They will tell them you have 24 hours to vacate, or we're coming back with a moving truck and we're pulling you out. What happens is one of our eviction agent will meet them at the property with the constable and the moving truck, and they will pull everything of value out. And they'll say, okay, you now have legal possession of the premises. They'll tell the tenant, if you come back, you will be arrested for trespassing. It's clean. There's no he
For
said, she
130
said.
bucks, you have peace of mind.
Absolutely. And you legally got possession of the premises back. The cops have told them don't come back. They know. And,
No Rolexes.
and there's
No
no
Rolex.
Rolexes because the cops cleared the
Funny how
house and
that
said, you
works.
have legal possession. It's done. And it's way worth it.
Question is, do you want to install an alarm system on these properties? I guess you can, but if somebody sees a vacant property, they'll cut that alarm and they'll take whatever they got to take.
Yep. One of the reasons we get the power turned on is we had learned a long time ago that they look for that. First, they'll look for trash and the move out happening, and then they look for that red tag. As soon as they see that red tag on the meter, they're stripping the cable out of the house. So what we do is once we know what's going on, we get the power turned on immediately.
Right away.
And we've seen a couple properties. We had one where there's a huge black mark by the box where they tried to steal the power.
Somebody
They didn't
got
realize the power was
electrocuted
on.
trying to steal that power.
So it was a little humorous when we went there, and
It wasn't good that we had to like change the whole riser out.
Yeah.
But at least we got
we got a little chuckle out of it,
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, you want your paper? Come on and get it. Most people want the gift card.
Yeah.
This didn't have a 13 on there. You said that was,
We added that late. Yeah.
We added that later on today.
Not
Yeah.
following the writ of possession.
We added that later. A business card? Yeah, we've got some right there. Does anybody else have any? I know
sir.
it's late.
Like when you evict someone, do you have to pay for the mover? to
No.
move stuff out?
No, because that stuff goes to a bonded moving. The bonded moving company puts it in impound, and that tenant has to pay to get it out. So
Yeah,
that's
so
between the constable and them at that point. We're out of it.
Yes, did you have to pay for the moving vehicle?
Yeah.
You don't. Oh, guys, we really appreciate it. We know it's late, and we know, a lot of us have to get up and go to work tomorrow, so we appreciate your time. Oh, one more?
One question. You said, y'all kind of chuckled about Section 8, but I don't take Section 8, but I found that they pay more than just what the market will bear.
Sometimes.
Is that the way it
Depends. They've got these calculations that they have. I don't know where they come up with them. $719 a month, $710, so, $854.
Here's the problem with Section 8 as well, is what we're finding is, let's say the rent's $1,000 and Section 8 is paying $900. All of a sudden, your resident never pays the $100. So now you're in a quandary. Are you going to evict that tenant for not paying $100? And give that up? And really, a lot of owners don't want to do that. And so it's a difficult question to answer. Do you just not do it, or do you do it? And we say do it because that's 100% of what they owe.
Yeah, what we do is with our evictions, if their late fees, whatever it is, gets to 50% of their rent, we're going to court. So once they hit that 50 percentile, whether it's like you said, they haven't paid this, haven't paid that, slow paid, once that equals 50% of what their rent is, we're going.
Yes, sir.
My understanding is if they don't pay their rent or their portions of their,
They're going to get kicked out? Yep.
they get kicked off.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
And that's their incentive to pay.
And we let them
Absolutely.
know that we know that. And we send them a letter saying, we know that if you get kicked out, you're not going to be in Section 8 anymore.
His question is if,
Depend on it.
And they depend on that. So we let them know that they're not, it's not a free ride.
right, but then you're the guy who doesn't get the rent anymore because they get kicked out of Section 8. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's a 20. It really is a tough call at times. Well, listen, guys, we appreciate it. We'll be here if anybody has any questions. We'll be off to the side. I know.